I feel very sad and very nervous for 5 days now because of the attack of the Russian Federation on the Ukraine soil. And you probably do remember the video I shot 22nd January about a possible invasion and what to do in case of invasion. But now things have moved forward, unfortunately, and we are in the worst scenario that I could have imagined. I will try to come on this channel, Modern Ukraine Dating, often as possible to make some little conference about what I know, what is my analysis about the political, military, strategical situation in Ukraine. Of course, this is very important because you have maybe some relatives, maybe you have a fiancé, a girlfriend, or you are married. It's the first concern because she has still some family, or unfortunately she is in Ukraine actually. And we will also speak about the dating scene in general in those videos. So there will be a title like Ukraine War, so 5, because today this is the 5th days of the struggle. And I will try to come back and again to make some news about this. So why I do this? Because in the first 48 hours of the struggle, I couldn't find real information and I had to go through the internet. And also, I have quite a lot of contact or good source of information that are crossing each other. So that's good to bring some certainty on the information. You have to understand the military and political situation if you want to take some decision for you. If you decide to go to Ukraine, but of course, I would say no. Absolutely no. If you are foreigners, forget. If you are Westerners from any side, American, Canadian, Australian, French, Spanish, forget. The only foreigner who are intended to go right now to Ukraine is to join the territorial Ukrainian forces or the Ukrainian Legion for foreigners, and it's to fight. So if you don't want to fight and just date women, no way. Don't even think about this. Political situation and strategical situation in Ukraine is this one. First of all, the goal and the doctrine for the first day of the Russian Federation was to capture the Ukrainian government and as much as possible parliamentary, to force them to renounce to the political power and transfer this one to some leaders of their choice. And they also wanted to close as much as possible big cities important for them and prepare some reconnaissance unit, lockout, sabotage in the first day. But unfortunately, it didn't work like they were expecting. And the main cities, all the main cities today, yesterday and today, day number 5, are in Ukrainian hands, and that's it. For the moment, the Russian Federation has no intention to target the civilian, and sometime an accident, of course, this is a war, is happening, but that's not the main objective of the Russian Federation army for the moment. At this exact hour, it could change. The fact is, no real artillery had been engaged massively, no real strategic bomber had been involved, only few tactical support, aerial support, a lot of missiles first to strike the infrastructure, so I believe that this is radar, and also the soil-air missile, Ukrainian missile, that had been the target of the first wave of missile. That was the objective of the Russians. First, size capture the Ukrainian government, and to decrease the military level of readiness of the Ukrainian forces. The proof is, for the moment, they haven't targeted the railway. So a lot of people, to my surprise, have been capable to escape mainly by the train and also by the cars. That's a big surprise for me because I was believing that, of course, they would strike the railway, train station, and so on. They didn't. Actually, yesterday night, approximately 400,000 people have fled, mainly through the Polish border, mainly, but also through Czechia and Romania checkpoints. That's a good news because I have some people that I know who have already been capable to flee, of course, women especially. I would say, actually, if you have some relatives of your wife, girlfriend, son, or relatives of your family, because this is your family, first you need to know that the men between 18 and 60 should stay in the Ukrainian territory for the conscription, because the conscription has started. So, it's unlikely your wife has a brother and he has to defend his country. So, in my opinion, if people should make a move, it's the right time. Right now, the situation for two cities are quite tense. Kiev, but it seems to be that the Russian Federation has made a communique saying that people can leave by a gate, and also the train station in Kiev is working. No problem with this one. The second city is Kherson. I don't have exact information about Kherson, but the situation is quite tense because, like in Kiev, I suppose that the Russian Federation has encircled the city. And the third one that will have some problem probably rapidly is Kharkov, because it's very close to the frontier. They have repelled at least two big attacks, and the second one that was yesterday. In the future, they could be also encircled. My first video was telling and showing the principal axis of penetration of the Russian Federation, and that's happened in the south. So the fourth city that is logically condemned in the future will be Mariupol, because the Russian Federation will try to reunify the troops coming from Crimea and the troops coming from the Donbass. That's quite logical. Contrary to what I have said in the first video, for the moment, Odessa is not at stake, but remember what I what I told in the first video. I told that they will take the Snake Islands because there are some gas around, and that's what happened. And here 13 Ukrainian soldiers died in Hero. They just didn't surrender, and they were all killed by a missile. At the Polish border, you will have to wait a lot of time. I don't have a lot of information about this one, but it's more likely if you are in a car, you're gonna have to wait for hours and days because there is a big queue. It looks like safe in the western part of Ukraine, actually, except the missile attack on military infrastructure to whip them off in the first hours. For the moment, no Russian troop to be seen on this spot. In a summary, we can say that in 5 days, the territorial gain of the Russian Federation is not so big, and they didn't seize any big cities. I suppose that large Ukrainian forces are still intact on the western part of the country. I also suspect that they have kept part of their assault-to-air capacity missile against plane. The Russian Federation is likely prisoner of a doctrine because they know that if they start to target the population, they will be alienated the population against them. They have been wrong about this because before they were entering, the population were already alienated against them. Very clearly, I see the military forces, territorial forces, law enforcement forces, police, so on, and the population, civilian population, working all together. What could be the future? Actually, politically, a meeting will happen between the Ukrainian government and the Russian government. From this, you should wait absolutely nothing, because it's not acceptable for the Ukrainian government to say, for example, okay, you have kept 15% of our territory again, so you keep it, and we make an agreement, and that's all. It's not, it's not impossible, because actually the Ukrainian spirit and morale is very high. They have defended themselves the first 5 days. That was the most important. And as this struggle is lasting, more chance for the Ukrainian. To tell you the problem that the Russians are suffering right now, the president of the Russian Federation has kicked out the supreme commander of the headquarters, simply. So it shows that it didn't work like they expected. So the future depends, of course, as you guess, on the willingness of the Russian Federation. The question for many of us is about the civilian. We are concerned about this. And actually, I repeat that this is not the main target in the doctrine of the Russian Federation. Nobody knows if this doctrine will change or not. That is the main problem. What will be the doctrine in the future? Because maybe they could start to make some retaliation against everyone. Of course, if you are military and you watch civilians shouting at you, you want to kill him. If there is a shout from a private apartment in a building, you are likely maybe to shell this building. I have the feeling that they have made a bet. They have been waiting. That is part of the strategy, in my opinion, of the Russian Federation, is to let a lot of people leaving to flow the European Union with new migrants, and at the same time, if only combatants are staying in the cities, they could engage them at the maximum power. It looks like cynical. Of course, we don't know that in a war, a lot of people will stay. That is happening each time. People who don't want to leave their soil. Also, there is another aspect. If the Russian Federation want to seize Ukraine, if they put a too high level of destruction in this country, it's not worth the journey.